So for this project, I chose to partner with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, better known as the EPA. The EPA is an agency of the United States federal government whose mission is to protect human and environmental health. The EPA is responsible for creating standards and laws promoting the health of individuals and the environment. It was created in 1970 by President Richard Nixon. And because of this agency, we've seen tremendous changes in the quality of air and water, as well as a decrease in harmful pesticides and hazardous waste, and significant changes that impact our climate. One of the biggest things that happened right after this agency was created was the Clean Air Act of 1970, giving the EPA permission to regulate harmful air pollutants. And one of the greatest successes that came out of that was the removal of lead from commonly used things like gasoline and paint. Lead was found in more than 70% of Americans' blood in the 1970s, and by 1995, that was reduced by 95%. That's pretty insane results. Um, so there's a couple other things that removed from air that reduced the amount of smog that was being put in our environment, which is really great. But basically, the EPA can be summarized into this common theme. I found this sentence on National Geographic and I absolutely loved it. And it says, "We live in a crowded world. Dumping waste of whatever kind into the air, water, or land isn't safe anymore." So I really love that sentence. I think it summarizes a lot of what the EPA does. Essentially, it protects our water, air, and land, and we are working on what to do with our waste and reducing it, and maybe recycling those things or creating sustainable products, and just being very conscious of what's happening with our environment. Again, that's a really popular conversation that's happening in society right now and online. You see these videos all the time of people going out into the ocean and like gathering all of this waste that's making it into our waterways. But you also see conversations of like the removal of straws in coastal regions because sea turtles are getting them in their nose or mistaking them for jellyfish tentacles. So now we have sustainable straws to like meet the needs. So we're adapting to these things that we're like coming to recognize, and that's a really big trend happening right now. And I think the EPA could play a better role in that conversation online. So my objectives for for this project are going to start off like pretty basic, and I want to see some extreme objectives by the end. Um, I don't know how doable that is. Currently, I'm waiting for a response from the EPA. If not, a lot of the work that I'm going to be doing is mock work, but I'm still super excited to kind of tackle this project and just learn more about the EPA. So right now, their website looks like it was frozen in 2013. Very hard to navigate, lots of hyperlinks, lots of menus. They have menus, a menu banner across the top, they have them down the sidebar. There's a lot of information being put on every single page that doesn't need to be put on every single page. So that's a big thing. A lot of their social media icons are like icons from back in the day. Like their Instagram icon is still the brown Instagram logo from when Instagram still had a brown thumbnail on the app screen, which was a while ago because right now it's pink and orange. And we've seen a few Instagram logos since then. Um, One of the other things that I'd like to see a 100% increase in likes and reactions to Instagram content. Currently, they have 40,000 followers on their Instagram and only on average get 60 to 100 likes on their photos. That's a really large gap in people engaging and people that are following. So I'd love to see a 100% increase, which means I'd love to see 120 to 200 likes on their photos. But if we're being honest, I'd love to see way more than that. One of their biggest problems on Instagram is that the photos and the infographics that they're posting don't meet the size requirements for the photos that are being put on there. So a lot of them have like cut off words or like the bottom portions cut off. But again, they're also posting infographics that don't relate to the last infographic on their Instagram. That's like not the worst, but it's all like one type of content. And according to HubSpot, no, wow, I said no very aggressively. According to Sprout Social, you should use a ratio of like 4-1-1, which means like four like relevant content posts and then one promotional and then one I guess like two promotional. It's just like the way you space it out. So yeah, they should use like a 4-1-1 ratio when doing that. And right now, all of their content is the same. Also, a big thing that they do is like everything is a top down diffusion rather than trying to engage horizontally with their fan base. I say fan base with their engagement and their followers. They also don't respond to anything on any of their social platforms. So I'd love to see an increase of that by 60% by the end of the quarter. The EPA, like I said, the EPA doesn't respond to anything on their social platforms. That means they don't respond to people using their hashtags, people tagging them in photos, comments on their photos, mentions, and anything along those streams. Like when people at them, like they aren't responding, and I don't think that's fair or right of them. I think they should at least acknowledge a greater majority of those people. So, for my objectives, I want to launch a new website, I want to increase engagement on Instagram, and I want to increase their engagement with the overall consumer. For the targeted audience, I did a little bit of research and digging around and going between National Geographic, Forbes magazine, and Pew Research. I decided that the best target audience for this is going to be males aging between 30 and 50, and that's because the environmental impact that they already have and the environmental engagement that they already have. So that's why I decided to do that. I also feel like I don't know, it just kind of it falls into place, I think. So for the strategy of this, I want to introduce the conversation of creating separate socials that include mainstream topics of the EPA. For example, they would have the greater like EPA Instagram page or Facebook page or Twitter page or whatever platform, and then branching off of that, and this would even be replicated on their website. They would have like the EPA about page, like when you get there, like the main, like what's happening, like, like every home screen does on every website. And below that, they're gonna have like a water, an air, a mold, lead, like all the different topics so that you can navigate through that. By the end of the 8 weeks, I would like to have a mock marketing campaign for each social media feed, implement new social campaigns, and have that website created. And a content calendar continuing on. So the tactics that I'd be using would be I'll probably make a Facebook, Twitter, and an Instagram, and then I want to recreate a website and somehow get a digital loop going between the three. However, I do understand that our target audience is ages 30 to 50-year-old males, which aren't going to be usually found on Instagram. So I want to go a little bit deeper on my targeted audience and really focus on who's going to be on those platforms, who we're talking to on those platforms, and develop content specific to each of those platforms. Anyways, I'm incredibly long winded. We're reaching 8 minutes now. I'm so sorry, but I think that's everything that I needed to cover. Have a great night.